Pep Talk UK, Pro Beez once again, bringing that energy. And I'm delighted to be joined by former Cruiserweight champion, reigning Cruiserweight champion, 5-6 years, undefeated, looking like an absolute tank.
I'm back. I'm back.
Tony
I'm
Nelson.
back. I'm back.
How you doing?
All right.
You good?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good.
Hey, we got to get straight into it.
Yep.
Fight camp is over. 4 weeks of absolute boxing porn we were served up. Classics.
I like that. I'm going to use that. So when you hear me use it, just say, yeah, you teeth off me. I like that. Boxing porn. That is best.
Boxing for Mr. Hearn will like that. Mr. Hearn will like that.
Yeah, it was good. It was, you know what? I actually, I was very skeptical when Fight Camp first started. I've seen one or two of the shows that were put on, and there was just something missing. I just thought, how are you ever going to fill in the gaps, feeling that something missing? And they did it. They filled in the gaps, and they were good fights. They created their slogan. Is it only one move in Fight Camp? And my reply to that is no rules. And they want 50-50 fights. It was good. It was everything that was needed on that Fight Camp. You got it. The only thing that was missing was a crowd to appreciate what they actually saw.
Definitely. And, you know, we take it back to the origins. I recall Eddie Hearn saying when he came up with the idea at first in a room full of his team, they just went quiet when he when he mentioned the idea.
Can I tell you? I've known Eddie. I've been around Eddie from when he was like 10, 11 years old. Disappeared, came back on the scene of boxing. So I don't really know Eddie that well. I'm not one of his boys. I don't move with him and that sort of stuff. But I'm just on the edge of that circle, and I see the boys he moves with and what he does. And in this last 4 weeks, it's probably given one more time to actually, because I'm a big studier of people, body language, what they say, what they don't say, how they say it, what they don't say. So to me, that works for me. Watching Eddie, how he interacts, how he just talks normally, it gave me a better insight into who he was, more than he actually realised. And he's the Don. The boy's the Don. I'm telling you. Listen, I don't work for Eddie. I don't get paid by him, but you know, I'm one of his crew. I'm just telling you, this young man, his outlook, his energy, his attitude, his foresight in regards to his vision, anything's possible. And I just laugh at some of the stories he's telling, and I'm like, man, you know, it's something we do as you know, when there's no consequences, but my man's doing stuff, and you actually just laugh. And so I think Eddie'd understand what I'm saying. I think people that know him understand what I'm saying, but I think it just gave us a better insight of who he actually is.
Yeah, I think before the whole Fight Camp started, week 1 to 4, you mentioned 50-50 fights, you mentioned drama, you mentioned debate, he mentioned good fights overall. Now, in terms of 50-50 fights, I think it's fair to say that we saw that. The egg and cheese, the omelette, it was served up quite nicely. That was a full protein packed breakfast, definitely.
No carbs, man. There was no carbs in that fight. It was just like, get it on. It was again, it was a good fight. It was a good like, what the, you know, you were like, Jesus, where's that coming from? But then, can they top it? Did they top it? Yes, they did. Every narrative in the story you got intrigue, you got drama, you got everything going, and the only thing that was missing was a crowd. I actually feel sorry for the crowd because they actually, you know, when you go to a fight and it's the atmosphere starts, that charge, that is part of the show, and they're the ones that have lost out because they've not been there, not no fault of their own. But I'm telling you, I was there. I've seen this thing operate, and I'm thinking, I've been to some fights, I've been to some setups, and it worked. He could carry on doing that. It worked. And look at Dylan, for instance. You look at Dylan's fight. Have you ever, listen to this saying, have you ever heard quiet go quiet? So remember, there was they were there. There was nobody there. Few officials, few fighters at the Washington side. So it's quiet. You heard every thud. You heard every breath. You heard every cuss word in a corner. And then when Dylan got knocked out, quiet went quiet. And like, as if to, for a split second, they're like, what? You know, it just went quiet. And everybody was like in shock. And it was kind of the same shock, I think, was probably on, well, to me anyway, was probably the same shock as when AJ got done by Ruiz. You're like, what have I just seen here? It was just a different level of atmosphere. It just changed. And like, listen, I've come home. You know, when you go to a party's done, music's sucking, everybody's gone home. You think, is that it? It seems like the party's done. Someone just switched the music up. I'm like, what, is that it? But it was good. It's been a good 4 weeks, very good 4 weeks.
I think I'm going to, now that I'm not emotionally involved watching the fights in the heat of the event, I'm going to watch the fights again from an objective standpoint once more, a cold standpoint. You know, when it's happened and you watch it 24 hours later and you say, okay, that person won that fight, or this is what happened.
So that's my point. So this is what Fight Camp has given us. The fact that you are not swayed by, because if you can watch two fights, if you turn the volume off and you can't hear no commentary, you can't hear the crowd, I bet you see two different fights. And because Fight Camp, because there's been no crowd there, all you can hear is the commentary. And the commentary can only say what they see. They can't be swayed. They can't be swayed, which they can be swayed, which happens where they're swayed by the crowd, the roar of the crowd, when a punch just misses or whatever. They have to say what they see. You see what you see. So if a punch lands, you think, oh, that landed. If it doesn't land, nobody's going to go mad and say, yeah, that landed. I think it shows the pureness of our sport. And our sport's brutal. Our sport is barbaric. But our sport at its best is the best. And when you see some street boxing, Clay and Congo, what a boxing exhibition.
Yeah.
You know, I love that. You saw class. I mean, class. You saw pure class. I was mesmerized. It was cold. I couldn't feel my feet, but I was completely mesmerized by what I saw. Class. And people, unless you're a purist and you love our sport, you'll understand what I'm saying. If you're not, you think, well, it's all right. It was class. You know, then you looked at the likes of, I don't know, egg and cheese. These boys are knocking lumps off each other, and I'm thinking, wow. Then you look at the likes of Natasha Jones.
That was a straightener. That was a straightener. You know, that was a proper straightener.
then you look at the likes of Natasha Jones against Terry Harper. It wasn't about women's boxing. It was about boxing. It was about boxing cojones. It was about that. That was needed in that fight. Then you look at Zelpa Barrett against, was it Donovan?
Donovan, yeah, Donovan.
And I just saw, what a shot. Because Donovan, good. He was better than what I'd given him credit for.
Yeah, and he talks well as well.
Him down with that shot, and if it had gone the distance, he'd lost on points. But Barrett, he believed to the last second he can pull it off. So there's many fights you can create a story about. There's many fights you can get giddy about. But to me, I loved Fight Camp. Fight Camp was wicked. Party's done. So we got to, and you know what? He managed to create something out of nothing. And but it was good.
You mentioned obviously turning off the commentary and watching the fights objectively. Now I must ask you this question. You know, there was a lot of talk that there was a bit of bias in some of the fights towards certain fighters. You're obviously, you know, at the front line, the thick of the action, work for Sky. I did an interview with Joe Gallagher. He was not happy about Jonas and he was not happy about Jonas and Harper, the commentators, the commentary. There's debate out there. There's debate out there, and you're the man to answer the questions with regards to the commentary.
All right, let me just tell you this, and I don't know why people think this. They think that there's a party line or a written rule to say if they're a matchroom fighter or if they're Sky fighter, you have to chat pure goodness about them. You cannot slag them there. That is pure foolishness. Because there's many times when I've said one thing and others have said something else. There's many times when Dave said one thing, vice versa. There's many times where you know, what they're doing is they're saying what they see. And if that's what they see, then you can't knock them for it. If they're missing something else, well, that's the problem. But if they're telling you pure foolishness and telling you you're seeing something else, then you've got them saying, no, what are you talking about? Sometimes shots are missed. Sometimes shots are not acknowledged, or good work are not acknowledged by fighters. And that does happen. But nobody tells me who to pick. Nobody tells me who I can and cannot say wins. And because, so say for instance, Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor, she's a lovely, lovely, good woman, wicked fighter.
Yeah. And
wicked fighter.
As well. Yeah.
And it would have been so easy to jump on the bandwagon and say yes, and ignore the obvious. In my opinion, that was just my opinion. I said no, she didn't win that.
Oh,
it's
okay.
nothing personal against.
Okay, all right.
I didn't think she won it. It's nothing personal against her. I just didn't think she won it. Matt Adams saw something else. You know, Andy Clark saw something else. So remember, people are forgetting, you know, we all work for the same company. So you got two people thought she won, two people thought she didn't win. It's about creating debate, conversation. It's about saying what you see.
Definitely.
And it's about what you're looking for in a fight. So when people get giddy on that and think we're being biased, we ain't being biased. We're only human. We just say what we see. And if it's wrong, it's wrong. And if it's right, it's right. And that's all it is. You know, it's making us sound like we're smarter than what we are, or stupider than what we actually are. So I don't take them things personal, because you can't argue with stupid. If there's anything you don't know what you're doing, or no, you don't know what you're talking about, I think, all right, that's just an opinion. You know, that's your nature.
No, definitely. I think we all have been talking about the conclusion of Fight Camp. You mentioned it earlier in our conversation. Dillian Whyte, Alexander Povetkin with the KO. Now, question to you, has Povetkin been eating yam and banana? Because at 41 years of age, how does he muster that type of technique and that power? How is it possible?
You know, Dillian Whyte, Povetkin has two shots. And big swinging right hand over the top, and that nice, sweet uppercut, that nice, sweet, short uppercut. Before the fight, look at the commentary. This was a fight for Dillian to lose, because Dillian had to, for the first half of the fights, not the commentary, the pre-fight analysis. And what I said was Dillian has to try and keep him long for the first 3 rounds, 4 rounds, step it up. Don't get involved in the cross counters, because he's got nice, short, sharp levers. So it suits Povetkin rather than Dillian. Dillian's got longer arms. Use his jab, pop him with the jab, then beat him with the jab, right hands, in and out the pocket. And Dillian was doing that, hurting him with every shot. You see Povetkin slowly but surely breaking down. Confidence is drilling out of him. The one time when they cross swords, and that's the one chance a man shouldn't have had. You know, and really, Dillian didn't do anything wrong. He got caught blind, because when he thought he had the shot covered, the timing of it, it's like, I don't know, it's like trying to shoot a clay pigeon. The timing of it was perfect. He thought he had it covered. So if you think you got a shot covered, instinctively you think, I got this. But then all of a sudden you get wham, because the timing of it, boom, right on point. He made a mistake. Or should I say he made a mistake? He got caught by a shot that most people wouldn't have been able to predict, foresee, time. Dillian he doesn't have to change anything. He doesn't have to change anything about his preparation, anything he did. He knew what he had to look out for. He just got caught. This heavyweight boxing. And if you're a big man and you can tell him, you just need that one shot. We've seen it many times with Deontay Wilder. Man's been behind on points. He just had that one shot. Let me just get one in.
Yeah.
And Povetkin got one in, because up to that point he was getting beat up. He was getting yammed.
Getting handled.
Which we can't argue about. So when people are trying to give Dillian a hard time, I'm thinking, come on, use common sense. You're just pure bad-minded. It's that common sense. He was beating him up, chopping him down. he got caught with one shot. He needed one shot. So there's nothing like, so Dillian goes back to training camp. What does he change? What tactics does he use? All he does is think, right, you know what? Okay, when I'm going to cross swords, it's going to be later in the fight and not earlier. Because I was beating you up, hitting him with the body shots, putting him down. And then he did a job, and he was mashing him. And even Povetkin fought, praise the Lord for Jesus. And I got one in. And so I think Dillian, it was just, and people there at ringside thought, you know what, that's just shit luck. That's just shit. And he must be one of the luckiest guys in the heavyweight top 10. That's just shit luck.
I think it's worth pointing out that Alexander Povetkin is like a chameleon. Like we have seen on a number of shows, he seems hurt and then he pulls it out of the bag. David Price was on top of Povetkin. We remember that. That.
One thing, let me apologize. There's one thing I'm ignoring. Povetkin's punch, what he did, what he pulled off, the shot he got. It was a beautiful shot.
Yeah.
And he stuck to his game plan. He's worked on that and worked on that and worked on that and worked on that.
You can see that it was drilled, didn't it? You can see that it was drilled.
He stuck to it. So you've got to rate this man for what he did. You've got to, regardless of how much of a shellacking he was getting, he stuck to his game plan. And in doing that, that's why he got the success. So enough props to him for what he achieved, for what he pulled off. And you've got it. So unfortunately, I'm one of them. I'm guilty of talking about what Dylan and not Povetkin. Povetkin did a good job with the tools he's got left. You know, and before the fight, you know what? I didn't think it'd go past 8 rounds. That was the truth. The way it was looking, that's how it was looking. But obviously in the favour of Dylan. But I just thought Povetkin, you got to give him props. Well done to him.
Definitely, because you know, as I was kind of alluding to, he looks hurt in a number of his fights. Well, in a number of his recent fights. I'm talking about Price, Hughie Fury, Michael Hunter. You remember in Saudi?
He looks like a cruise. That's what I'm saying. You know, he had to up his game. You know, but the thing is, he was getting hurt often against Dillian. It's not like Dillian was catching a beating and then got knocked out. He just got caught the first time Dillian got hit and hurt by a guy that can bang a 4 world champion. It was funny though. You're trying to pull some fun out of it. And me and AJ, we're talking about the fights that's going on. And AJ, I rate him, you know, he's like talking about the fight, getting excited about it. And then they mentioned about him being a world champ, Povetkin. He's like, wait on a minute. Povetkin was world champion. That means I've beaten 5 world champions. And we're watching the fight. I'm like, yes. So it was like a giddy little kid thinking, and this is while the fight was on. So this wasn't glean after the fight. It was while the fight was on. And we're like, we're watching the fight. He goes, I've beaten 5 world champions. As a point to forget as well. And I thought it was funny, it was nice. And the other thing was, AJ, afterwards, I gotta give him props for being respectful after the fight when Dillian lost. Being grounded, being factual, not being a he bitch. And he, I've got to give it him because, and he said, look, Dylan, brush yourself down, respect you as a fighter. You know, so whatever goes on with them person between them. And I actually thought, I like that. I like how you just handle that. Because, and the thing is, Dillian actually did that with him when he lost to Ruiz. So these two might not like each other, but they have that professional respect for each other. Yeah. Which I like. Which they use in common sense. I like that. You know, to me, that's our sport. So me and you could dislike each other, but I got respect here for what you can do. I might not like you away from the ring, but after that, and so it was. I think everybody conducting themselves in a fabulous way fight night.
And you know, I think it's worth like pointing out that anybody at any stage, anybody can get knocked out. Anyone, it just takes one punch, especially in the heavyweight division. So, you know, it's in good taste that, you know, you do commend your fellow heavyweight because we've seen it over and over, you know, nobody escapes it. At some point, the course of history does show, apart from Mayweather, that clean record, everyone's going to take an L and most people might take a knockout as well.
And
Yeah,
Joe
but
Kawasaki.
Joe Kawasaki as well, exactly. So I think it's in good taste. But I think what I've just, in relation to that, Deontay Wilder, he's come out on social media and just to kind of rephrase his tweet, Glaz za Glaz, which
What?
means, yeah, Glaz za Glaz. I believe in Glaz za Glaz. That was his tweet.
What's the translation?
Eye for an eye. So I think what
What?
yeah. So I think many people are speculating,
Deontay, you got beat up. You got beat up and knocked out. Come on, man. It's there's certain unwritten rules or conversations boxers we have amongst ourselves. And I know you might not fight like a fellow fighter, and you might be glad someone's got catch a beating, but you've got to think to yourself, in the long run, the only beat affects you as well. Because say for instance, when AJ lost to Ruiz, and Dillian came out and said, why? He said, Fury and Wilder, are you stupid? Because regardless of what you believe or not, because of this man, we're getting paid mad money. Because of this man, we'd get paid mad money. So why you want him to lose? You want to be the one that beats him, not some fat Mexican. You want to be the one that gets in with him. It affects you as well. So it's about pushing everybody forward. Now, Wilder's saying, if that's what it means, if Wilder's saying that to about Dillian, well, where's that come from? That's why. I don't understand why. Where's that come from? That's just pure fool. That's picnic business. That's why. It's like, again, he bitching. That's what he bitching is. You're like, come on, respect yourself, man. Come on, fix up. And that's just stupidness. Keep that stuff to yourself. If you and your boys are like, yes, I'm going, fine. Show a level of professionalism. Because you know what? It's just to me, and that's why certain fighters let themselves down. I like Deontay, but some of the stuff he says, or I just think, and if you ask me, I will give you my opinion on it. Otherwise, I'll not say nothing. But sometimes I just think, wow, that just don't make sense, man. That just don't make sense. That's foolishness.
Well, moving on, I think to conclude the whole Dillian Whyte situation, that 1,000 days, it looks like it's gonna increase significantly. I mean, when we look at the rematch, potentially December, then Fury and Wilder, probably the end of the year. It looks like that title shot, Dillian has to obviously win the rematch, but again, it looks like the wait is going to be longer. It looks like there's going to be more hurdles to overcome.
I think in reality, the wait is always going to be there because there's a lot of confusion in regards to what happens in that WBC opportunity. So I think that it was going to be there anyway. I don't know if the WBC has said the mandatory position would still be available for Dillian if he came back and beat Povetkin. So in reality, if he'd have beaten Povetkin, I think in reality he probably wouldn't have been in a position to fight for the WBC until the middle of next year. And in reality, because I'm quite sure Tyson Fury, I don't know how it would have happened if Tyson Fury would have boxed him or given it up. But I just think it's now getting to a point where it's about the fighters and not the titles now, isn't it? And that's what's happening because the only person that's not being beat is Tyson Fury.
You mentioned that. You mentioned that in BT Sport, in an interview with BT Sport recently. Yeah.
And I can remember it was a point where you got to think they were all out there. 3 men are not being beaten, and now 2 have been beaten. The only one that's left standing is Tyson Fury. And so you can't argue with that. You just can't argue with it. So regardless of what's going on and what's happening, you've got to give respect where it's due.
Yeah. It's a lot of people could say, well, styles do make fights because, okay, AJ versus Parker. AJ went a distance with Parker, right? But Dillian Whyte also went a distance with Parker, but Dillian Whyte knocked down Parker twice. Okay.
Yeah, and AJ knocked out Dillian Whyte. Parker knocked out. He boxed on the undercard. Was it Whyte? He boxed Babic.
Winters.
Winters, yeah. He knocked him out in 5 rounds. You're thinking, how did this guy last the 5 rounds?
How do you measure that? Yeah.
So styles make fights, and so you've got to look at the fighter that's for every style. You've got to look at the fighter that's managed to navigate his way through and win for every style, and the only one that's proven thus far is Tyson Fury.
Yeah, do you know what? I've got to put out there. Tyson Fury is a hell of a fighter. Don't get me wrong.
He is.
Yeah.
Listen, I agree. Listen, he is. And that's why I'm saying to you, regardless of what you're saying, no matter what other fighters think about him, he's proved that. So regardless of what you think of him personally or not, he has proved, you know what, I'm top dog. So on paper, you can't argue it. It's not until you get in the ring and say, all right, bring it on. I can't argue with the fact that he's the only one that's not been beaten and he's world champion. So you can't argue it, you just go wall it down.
Yeah, I've got to admit, I think one of my highlights of Tyson Fury, apart from his wins against Klitschko and Wilder, is the fight when he fought Chisora, I think the second time. Mm-hmm. And he fought Southpaw, I think it was, for much of the fight.
Yeah.
That showed me the abilities of Tyson Fury. That was absolute mazza.
I think Tyson Fury will not be fully appreciated until he's walked away from the game. Until he's walked away from the game and years down the line, and you say, yeah, there was this young man called Tyson Fury, a traveller, and he came through, and they'll make folklore stories about this young man, and that's what happened, and he's done it his way. So yeah, again, you can't argue. There's no argument for it. There ain't no argument. No matter what, there's always a flaw in the argument, because you can say, well, this guy's proved it in the ring. He's unbeaten. So until he is, then we can all have a dig or have an opinion.
Who beats Fury to conclude? Who's the one that has the tools?
Listen, so let's look at it this way. Let's revert back to Saturday night. Saturday night proved one punch can change anything. So every one of them can beat Fury. Every one of them. If they hit him on the chin hard enough, every one of them, Povetkin would have beaten Fury if he hit him on the chin. So that's heavyweight boxing. So if you one punch changes everything. Tyson Fury has formulated a side to his fight that it makes you too hard to hit and flush enough to keep him down. So everybody will has the chance, has the option, but it's a case of will he lapse in a millisecond to let someone get the chance to do that.
100%. Hey, we'd like to thank Mr. Johnny Nelson for passing through once again. Hey man, I'm enjoying these chats, man. This is it's made my Monday, man. It's made my Monday.
Blessed. You know what? I actually say, you know what? I just thought, I don't know what we're gonna do now because the party's over. So we ain't even got a carnival next week to look forward to.
No carnival, Notting Hill. Yeah, Notting Hill.
Yeah, we've got a carnival to look forward to. So it was just like just being teased. The boxing came back again. We're back in the mix again. So I'm quite sure the shows will be back on the mix. So it was just nice to try and get things rolling again and seeing fighters out in action and earning a living, which is just nice to see.
Rerun fight camp. I think we'll be indulging in that maybe this evening, a few evenings this week, just to keep that adrenaline flowing. And then Daniel Dubois out this weekend. In his preparation for Joe Joyce. So
yeah,
boxing is back.
What do you think of that? What do you think of that, Dubois and Joyce? Who do you think gets that?
Me, Johnny. The type of situation I'm in now. I can't say too much, but oh, you said that, bro. You said that. No.
I know. I love putting you guys in the pressure. I know you can't say no.
No, do you know what? To be fair, Daniel Dubois, for me, when the current crop goes.
Careful.
I'm putting this one out. This one I can put out there. When the current crop has retired or at the end of their careers, there's one man that I think might be the face, and that could be Daniel Dubois. I don't see anybody else at heavyweight his age coming through like him. But again, the test against Joe Joyce will show it all.
There you go. I I kind of agree that. I think let's see this Jojo situation, and if he comes out victorious, I probably agree with everything you're saying right there.
Next gen. Hey, Johnny, thanks for your time, man. It's been a pleasure. Pep Talk, Johnny Nelson.
Pep talk. All right, nice one. Bless us. See you later.
Cheers, Johnny. Thank you.
Bye.